Hi, this is Cora Stack here, Dr. Cora Stack. I want to give a bit of credit to the Spoil Vote campaign because I feel not saying they haven't got much publicity about their bravery, and indeed a lot of people stayed at home as well, and they were kind of indirectly, I think, a silent protest, if you like. So let's just give these very brave people a credit. They're not a crowd of crackpots, absolutely not. And let's just look at giving them their due credit. So I'm not afraid of doing that. So a brave protest. What really happened in the 2025 election and why the spoilt vote mattered. I mean, it was an incredible campaign by those that organised it. But the people that went out there and spoiled their vote in extraordinary numbers was unprecedented in Irish elections. And I think we need to give these people a lot of credit because they were speaking in a loud voice, and we need to hear what they were saying and to take heed of it, not to just to forget about them, to notice what they were saying and to heed it and to do something about this protest, which they were. It was all peaceful. There was no issues about it at all. By and large, there were very ordinary people just doing their bit to express their concerns about the way Ireland is going. The political system is going. So let's give them their due credit. This video is not about telling anyone how they should have voted. It's about explaining what actually happened in the 2025 presidential election and why so many citizens felt compelled to protest. Over 213,000 people spoiled their ballots in 2025. This was a very brave act, but bravery alone does not explain it. To understand why that happened, let's look carefully and factually at the constitutional process that failed before polling day ever arrived. Now, it wasn't just about that, I would say, but this was a way of people expressing their concerns about the direction in which Ireland is going. And they were, I think, saying they wanted a new direction for Ireland. This is my sense. It wasn't necessarily that particular, they were saying, this is not the way we want the direction of Ireland to go. In the way it's going, we want change. So what the research paper establishes, the analysis I'm drawing on comes from a new research paper updated very recently, co-authored with Ms. Mairead Kenny, an independent researcher and advocate, and she was a Seanad person who ran for the Seanad, and she's an excellent researcher. In fairness, she is really excellent. Pleasure to work with her. The paper examines one central question: what happens when political party discipline overrides a constitutional safeguard? So I'm the kind of constitutional person, and she's the administrative, and the political scientist, and I'm the constitutional person, because being mathematical, constitutional law is right. It's very mathematical, and it's a really mathematical area in law. I think the constitutional law. So for a mathematician, it's fabulous stuff. So under Article 12.4.2 of the Constitution, local authorities are given a distinct and independent role in presidential nominations. Specifically, this is very important now, to protect pluralism and non-party candidates. So it's a way to avoid kind of dictatorship. It's very important in this respect, and I think it's hard to explain it if one doesn't understand that particular article. So people that don't understand the articles wouldn't understand the argument. So in September 2025, that safeguard collapsed, not accidentally, not organically, but as a result of a coordinated party directive. RTE and other national outlets confirmed that a uniform instruction was issued to Fine Gael councillors: do not nominate any independent candidates. Now, I made a video around that time, and there was a huge outpouring of concern. So this instruction was enforced through sorry. Hi, sorry, back again. This instruction was enforced to party discipline, extended beyond the Oireachtas, And it was an action. We call it an action, rather than a whip. It's better to describe it as an action by a particular rather than a whip, inverted commas, and applied to councillors performing a constitutional function, not a party vote. The result was unprecedented. No independent candidate secured sufficient local authority nominations. The local route failed for the first time since the foundation of the Constitution. That's 1937. Candidates fell short by one council despite cross-party support at local level. This is the factual backbone of our paper. And actually, it was the backbone of our constitutional cases, or one of my main. I had a couple of issues to do with some of the current limitations of the current Protected Disclosures Act that I believe are EU uncompliant across quite a number of rights, and the directive and the Human Rights Charter. But certainly this is a major issue. This was the major issue, and then the Protective Disclosures Act was also a very serious concern that I have as well. But that's not for this video. So the constitutional and legal issues. The paper then examines the legal consequences of that directive. Key findings included the party whip, or the block as we're calling it, which is the action. That directive has no constitutional or statutory authority over local authority nominations. Predetermined voting breaches councillors' statutory duties under the Local Government Act. SEPO's requirement of good faith and impartiality were compromised. The directive functioned as a de facto executive veto over a constitutional pathway. This is why legal challenges were brought. Important, and this matters, those constitutional cases were initiated independently of any voter protest. So we weren't aware that there was we were aware that there was but this was going on in parallel, the spoil vote. Like, we weren't involved in that, but let's just look at, perhaps we were all, on the same wavelength, if you like. They arose from legal analysis, documentary evidence and constitutional doctrine, but what happened next is telling. Where the spoiled vote comes in. After the nomination process collapsed, the electorate was presented with a constrained choice. Over 213,000 voters responded by spoiling their ballots. Now, for various reasons, but certainly I would say a uniting reason was dissatisfaction with the direction of current government policy. I would say, that must have been a major, if you were to say to all of them, are you happy with the way the Irish government or the executives are managing our current government or our governance? I would say that most of those parties were not happy with the way we're being governed, and this was including the way, including the way the bloc, as well. So that's what I would say, unhappy, and with reason, with good reason. I mean, these people didn't go out to spoil their votes for fun. They did it to exercise their democratic right to say, in my opinion, if we were to sort of think about, put ourselves in their shoes, we are not happy with the way we're being government. And we're all talking about dictatorship, and I see it as a kind of closed circle. There's a closed circle, and it's become more and more closed, and by not letting independence in, it's a mirror on the closed system of government, which becomes more like a dictatorship over time, self-defense, preservation, all that sort of thing. So I think these voters deserve a lot of credit. These spoiled voters deserve more credit than they're getting. They're not a crowd of, they are very, very brave what they did, and we weren't involved in that at all. They did that independently. The paper does not claim that spoiled votes caused the constitutional breach. They didn't. What they did was mirror it independently from different starting points. Law on one side, conscience on the other. The same conclusion was reached. Something fundamental had gone wrong. That convergence matters. It showed this was not a niche legal concern or an elite dispute, or, a dispute by crackpots, like referring me to be a crackpot, or Mr. Niall Byrne, for example. It was the systemic democratic failure recognised across society. So what we were saying was echoed by thousands in the spoiled vote, but that was independently. Why the spoiled vote mattered, but isn't the whole story. The spoiled vote matters because it documents disenfranchisement. Absolutely. People do not feel that they belong or they're listened to or heard in this democracy. They just feel talked down to, told what to do, and their voices are not being listened to, or their concerns are being ignored. This is what I would take out of it. It rebuts claims of public acquiescence. It provides empirical evidence of democratic deficit, decline and harm. But it is not the foundation of the case. The foundation remains the Constitution, statutory duties, established case law and documented party action. The spoil voters did not invent the problem. Absolutely not. They identified it courageously in the only available way to them. And full marks to them for that. That deserves recognition, not romanticisation. Closing, measured, forward-looking. The question Ireland now faces is not whether people were right to protest, but whether we are willing to learn from what that protest revealed. This paper and the ongoing legal proceedings are about one thing: whether constitutional safeguards can be neutralised by party power without consequence. If the answer is yes, then the damage goes far beyond one election. If the answer is no, then 2025 may yet be remembered not as the democratic failure, but as at the moment Ireland choose to draw a line. So what we're doing here is we are honouring the spoiled voters. We're explicitly honouring them, the law, and this is what we're honouring them. But we're also talking about the bones of the paper as well. So I think we need to not to forget all those people who went out in their thousands, and to say, each and every one of them, if I was to ask them, each of them would say, we're not happy with the way we're in government. We want a government that represents our concerns, and we are not crackpots or isolated. We represent a significant amount, and I think the disenfranchisement is very much part of the reason behind the spoil votes. I would say that's a very good word to describe why they were voting in such huge numbers, and we have to give them every credit for what they did here, and I'm certainly giving them credit here, but just saying that we're continuing with our legal challenges, and we believe we have a very strong case that we were mistreated, or we were unfairly treated. We weren't given a fair hearing at the first round, if you like, in the High Court, and we were very, very distressed at the way we were treated. But we're not going to give up easily, and we believe we have a very strong case now with all the facts, just based on facts. And perhaps there was undue pressure on the judiciary before the election, but I still think the balance of convenience, if I had been a judge, I would have, on the balance of convenience, decided totally impartially that on the balance of convenience the election should have been paused, even the day before. If I was a neutral judge, I would have said, as a judge representing the separation of powers, I would have said, on the balance of convenience, being a probabilist myself, looking at the probability, the balance of convenience is what's the long-term damage of not doing something compared to the short term. I have to look at the long term. And I would have said, if I was to apply the balance of convenience and be truthfully aligned to the separation of powers as the judge, I would have said the balance of convenience is to pause the election and the day before the election. That's what I would have said. I know it would have caused a lot of problems, but it's what it has caused in the long term. And indeed, I would have also applied the same principle before the inauguration. And this is no criticism of the current president. Absolutely not. No criticism of the current president. It is the fact that an independent route, which is defined and guaranteed by the